Hi, I'm Sierra Morris and this is Checking the Chicks. In this video, I'll share tips for a quick start guide to your first chicks. First, be sure you can legally have chickens in your area prior to bringing your first chicks home. Many HOAs, neighborhoods, regions, and states will have different laws impacting your ability to legally own chickens. Make sure you can legally have chickens in your area prior to bringing home your first birds. Adopting chickens is a daily, multi-year commitment. With the exception of meat birds that only live a few months, chickens are long-lived animals. Please carefully consider prior to adopting your first chicks if this commitment is right for you, your family, and your lifestyle. One of the best things you can do for your first chicks is to learn as much as possible prior to bringing them home. Make sure you access resources, not just social media and the internet, to learn more about chickens. Go to the library or your local agricultural office to access free resources and learn as much as you can about chickens prior to bringing them home. Box stores and hatcheries often also include book sections which have helpful magazines and books to help you get started. Read as much as you can about chickens prior to bringing home your first chicks. Don't just rely on word of mouth and videos to learn about them. Find other sources of information to be the best prepared chicken owner you can be prior to bringing your first chicks home. If you're not entirely certain if getting chickens is right for you, connect with your local backyard chicken club and actually go see people who own backyard chickens currently to see if it's something you might want to do for yourself. Always start with the smallest number of birds you can. You can always get more chickens later, but it's much more difficult to rehome birds once you get them. So start with a small flock and then expand if you want to. Baby chicks are absolutely adorable, I'm not going to deny that, but they do require extra equipment and effort. Some other options for starting your first flock are buying pullets. So a pullet is a older chicken that's going to be less than a year old, so it's not going to be a baby chick, but you know for certain what their gender is. So pullets are going to be hens, guaranteed. There's absolutely no chance of getting a rooster if you're buying pullets from a hatchery. So that idea being they're going to be more expensive up front because you're paying for the care that the hatchery put forth to maintain the birds to a certain age, but you know for sure, absolutely without question, that they are hens. Pullets are also easier because they're not going to require a brooder, meaning they're going to be fully feathered when you purchase them, so they'll be able to go right into your outside coop and run, and they're not going to have to live in a protected area prior to going outside. Another option for starting your first flock is adopting adult chickens or rescue hens. If you already have an existing flock, just make sure that you quarantine these new birds for at least a month in a separate area to be sure they're healthy prior to incorporating them into your existing flock. And if they're your first birds, again, make sure you know as much as possible prior to bringing them home and make sure you have that infrastructure ready to go. I've talked a lot about infrastructure, but this is very important to have that in place prior to bringing your first chicks home, because even if you buy your first chickens as baby chicks when they're only a few days old, they're only going to be in their brooder and their little protected area for 8 to 10 weeks, and then they're going to be ready to be outside. You will not be able to do construction faster than your chickens grow, so it's very important to have their facilities prepared prior to bringing home your first chickens. Where to get your first chicks. So you have options here. The options are the farm store, so just the big box farm store directly from a hatchery, or person-to-person sales, and both the farm store and hatchery also offer hatching eggs and chicks by mail. So our lived experience has been acquiring chicks from the big box store and also acquiring from the hatchery. Comparing those two experiences, I purchased my chicks from a hatchery going forward just because they are better at knowing what breed of chicken that they're selling me, and also they're better at knowing what sex the chicken is, whether it's a hen or a rooster ultimately. So I've had more positive experiences working with a hatchery. As far as person-to-person sales, if you're going to be buying chickens from another person, I would make it a point to visit their flock prior to bringing their birds home to ensure that they're healthy. Know that if you're buying chicks from a box store, sometimes mistakes are made. When you're buying straight run chicks, they are 50% males and 50% females. And again, those statistics may vary one way or the other, but it is a dice roll. You do not know for sure. So if you are buying straight run chicks or chicks from a box store, just in general, make sure that you have a rooster plan in place. So to bring home your first baby chicks, you'll need to have a brooder ready for them. The brooder is the small protected space that you're going to keep them in until they're fully feathered and ready to be outside. It's a good idea to have your brooder already set up and ready to go prior to bringing home your first chicks. That way they have a safe place to be from day one. For brooder size, it's recommended at least 1 square foot of space per chick. Have the largest brooder you can because it's going to astound you how quickly your baby chicks grow. And as far as keeping a safe lid on your brooder, you can use screen panels like those that you insert in a window, or you can use hardware cloth. Be sure that the sides of the brooder are at least 24 inches high. There's different kinds of containers you can use for this. We use large totes, just the largest totes you can, but you can also construct a wooden box. You can use the galvanized steel tubs, or you can also construct a temporary brooder out of cardboard boxes. Some essential brooder components are the bedding. So that's what you're going to line your brooder with, and you're going to want to choose a soft, non-slip material like puppy pads or pine shavings. Don't use any slick material like newspaper, and especially nothing like glossy advertisements, because baby chicks can fall easily and they can injure themselves. So no matter what kind of container you use, if you're using a cardboard box or a tote or a wooden box, you have to line it with something soft so your baby chicks don't slip. You'll need a water container for your baby birds. Some people also recommend putting glass beads or small pebbles in the bottom of their water tray to make sure the baby chicks don't accidentally drown in their water. You'll need a food container, something filled with chick starter grower, and you can also get hydration packets for your baby chicks to help them and give them some extra nutrition and hydration in their first days of life. I would highly recommend getting these hydration packets. They're not expensive, they're optional, but I think they do make a difference when raising healthy, happy chicks. You'll need a heat source for your baby chicks. In nature, your baby chicks will have their mother hen for warmth, but without that, you'll have to provide a heat source for them. You can either use a clamp-on lamp with an infrared heat bulb, an incandescent bulb, or a heating panel especially designed for baby chicks. The heat source bulbs can be a fire hazard, so they need to be checked very frequently. If you think you're ever going to raise more than one batch of chicks, I highly recommend investing in the special heating panel for chicks. It allows them to demonstrate more natural behavior by going underneath the heating panel to keep warm, and it's not as much of a fire hazard, so you don't have to worry about it melting your brooder or posing a danger to your house or your barn or your chicks. Purchase a thermometer to keep in your brooder in order to check the temperature inside of your brooder. This doesn't have to be an expensive or fancy thermometer, but it's a very helpful tool to be able to check that your baby chicks are safe and they have the heat source that they require. You're going to have to adjust the heat source over time. On day one, your baby chicks will need a brooder that's between 90 to 95 degrees, and then you're going to decrease that by 5 degrees every week until your baby chicks are fully feathered. So the kind of activity you're going to want to see in your brooder is that your baby chicks are moving about the brooder freely throughout the day. I highly recommend placing the heat source at one end of the brooder, and what you want to see is your baby chicks using the heat source at night but moving freely throughout the brooder during the day. Their body language is going to let you know if they have the temperature that they need. So if they're constantly huddled under the heat source and barely ever out from under it, then they're too cold. And if they're crammed in the farthest corner far away from the heat source, then they're too hot. What you want to see is your baby chicks moving freely throughout the brooder during the day, eating and drinking, and then sleeping under their heat source at night. It's important to use safe handling practices when you first get baby chicks. Avoid handling your baby chicks for the first 2 to 3 days after you bring them home to allow them to get acclimated to their new space. Make sure you wash your hands before and after you handle your baby chicks and clean their area, and make sure that you never allow young children to handle baby chickens unsupervised. Your baby chicks will need protection from predators. If you're going to be having your brooder inside your home, this is going to come in the form of whatever top you use for your brooder, like the screen top that I talked about. Or if you're going to be brooding them outside, this is the hardware cloth top that I had discussed. There are pros and cons to deciding to have your brooder inside or outside. We use a guest bathroom, and then we strip the bathroom down, bleach and disinfect it after the chicks move outside. Some people set up their brooder in a garage or in a barn or in the coop. It's going to come down to personal preference and your specific abilities when it comes to raising chickens, what the right solution is going to be for you. Regardless of whether you place your brooder inside or outside, it is going to be messy and it's going to require daily cleaning. Baby chicks outgrow their brooders very quickly, so something you want to be on the lookout for is aggression between your chicks. If it turns out that some of your chicks are ganging up on one or more members of their tiny flock and they're beating them up or they're injuring each other, it's because they don't have enough space. And this situation can happen suddenly, virtually overnight. So it's very important when you get your baby chicks to provide them with the biggest brooder possible and make sure you have that outside infrastructure in place, so when they're ready to move outside, you have a safe place to move them to. We let our baby chicks begin to have outside time between 5 to 6 weeks of age. We let them outside in a protected area in a small hutch just to let them play in grass and experience the outdoors. Make sure you never take your chicks outside during bad or inclement weather. And also, when you ultimately plan to take them outside permanently, make sure you do this on a day where it is nice weather. Never transition chicks outside during storms or bad weather or any sort of precipitation, because this can kill them. Your baby chicks will be ready to be outside somewhere between 8 to 10 weeks of age once they're fully feathered. And by fully feathered, I mean when they no longer have any of their downy chick fuzz and they have feathers over their entire body, because the downy chick fuzz, it doesn't make it possible for them to regulate their own body temperature. Feathers make it possible for them to keep in their own body heat. So once they're fully feathered, they're ready to be outside. Transition them to their coop and leave them in their coop for 24 hours with food and water. Once they've been in their coop for at least 24 hours, you can release them out into the yard and make sure they have access to food and water in their run area, and then they'll naturally go back to their coop at night, and what you'll need to do as their owner is simply seal them into their coop at night to protect them from predators. I hope this video was helpful. There was no way I could cover absolutely all of the information involved with getting your first chicks and starting your first flock in one video, but I hope you feel like I hit most of the major points. If you have additional information to share with people bringing home their first chickens, please leave your information in the comments. I'm so happy to see so many new flock members and so happy to see people using the comment section appropriately to share helpful information from their lived experiences with backyard chickens and homesteading. So happy to have so many new flock members, and I'm so grateful for you all being part of my YouTube journey. If you enjoy my content, please like, share, and subscribe. We would love to have you as part of our flock. Lots of love from our coop to yours. See you next time.